How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I just want to say thank you for allowing us to actually interview with you today.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a busy man, so really taking the time to interview with us, like it really means a lot.
Never too busy to be interviewed by Alpha Men. My name is Charles, the initial L. Robinson. I'm a senior. I have a son with the same last name. I'm semi-retired right now. I have a law degree, but I am not practicing law at this time. I have a mediation practice, which is also, I guess you could say, part-time. My passion is bringing together people who normally don't come together to create breakthroughs in areas where we haven't had very much movement. And so, like, my mediation practice now is, I'm designing it to foster collaboration. And my dream is to help transform, like, the inner city of Milwaukee by having nonprofit organizations come together with churches and block clubs and schools, to work together as units to transform some of the issues that we're facing with right now.
And just talking about Milwaukee, are you originally from here?
Well, I was born in Newarton, Louisiana, in my great-grandmother's house on Blackwater Plantation. So I went from Blackwater to Whitewater. Yeah. I've been in Milwaukee since I was 3.5 years old. I really fell in love with the South. Like, growing up on my grandparents' farm, being huntsmen, herdsmen, and everybody had a job. I had a job feeding the little biddies, we call them biddies, the little chickens, baby chickens.
Oh, wow, I never did that.
I had a little sack of corn they would give me. I'm 2 years old now. Everybody had to have a job. Whether it was pumping water or chopping wood, on the farm. And my job was going on the back porch and feeding the little biddies their corn. But it wasn't regular corn, it was corn that was chopped up for the baby chickens. Running around barefooted, with fig trees and buckthorn trees, and that was a life. It was like paradise. And then when we moved to Milwaukee, it was like, being confined to an apartment building that you couldn't go outside, it was too cold, you couldn't run around with no shoes on because it was dangerous.
Yeah.
It was much different from being on the farm.
I know you mentioned Whitewater as well, and you attended Whitewater as an undergraduate, correct?
Yeah. I was there for 4.5 years, 1967 to 71. And even though I lost the academic year because of the riots we had on campus, I was able to go to Marquette for a semester and took a summer term.
Can you kind of talk more about the riots? I know that was like a very stressful time for a lot of people, especially during that era. Like, how was that on campus?
Yeah, these were some turbulent times. And previously at Oshkosh, Wisconsin State University, Oshkosh, now UW-Oshkosh, they had a riot. Well, it wasn't a riot, but 94 students of 94 students on campus, black students, were expelled. Now, 1 year almost to the date, because they had their incident November 21st, 1968. Our incident, where I was caught up in this suspension, was December 16th, 1969, almost a year apart. There was a fight at the Williams Center, at the gym. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't even at the Williams Center. I was in class. I had a night class that went from 6:30 to 9 o'clock, right? Now, this incident happened around 9 o'clock. It was an intramural basketball game at Williams Center, and I think I heard that a white guy pushed one of the black females, which triggered the fight. And then, because there were only 7 black students there at the time we were fighting, a large number of white students. And when the word got out that this mob jumped on black students, including 2 females, a lot of people got really upset and angry about that. So they met at the Black Student Union. And I wasn't there. I was, like I said, I was in night class, it was a 3-hour class. And when I got out of the class, I saw people running toward Main Street. They were marching down Main Street, maybe like 75 or so 100 people. And then they had this incident at the Five Guy Epsilon House downtown. I got there at the tail end, and one of the officers recognized me because I was the only black guy on the football team for 3 years straight, right? Mm-hmm. So I was very recognizable. He asked me to come over and stand with him because he said Perk wouldn't want you to get in trouble. Perk, Coach Perkins. Mm-hmm. They named the stadium. Perkins Field, right? He passed away. Yeah. And so I'm standing over here with the officer thinking that, I'm safe, I'm okay, right? The next day, my name was one of the 16 people who were temporarily suspended.
Wow. And you didn't even do anything?
Well, they went to the Anderson Library, and they picked out all of the names of people who are identifiable in court. We had a large number of incoming black students that year because we went out and recruited our own students. Because we only had, my freshman year, we only had like 50 black students on campus. And we requested that the university do something about bringing in more black students. They said, we don't have the time, but we'll give you the cars. So they gave us the vehicles, to go out to Chicago, Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, Madison. We recruited black students. So we doubled our numbers, the following year.
So the students are doing all this work.
Right, these were, we went out and recruited our own students. So there were a lot of freshmen on campus who nobody could identify. Mm-hmm. So that's why they picked out people who were identifiable. And most of us were upperclassmen. But it was really the freshmen who were doing most of the fighting. Keep in mind, this is also in the same time period where it was like the height of the Civil Rights Movement. The previous year, 1967, 2 years before this incident, we had a riot in Milwaukee that hit the national headlines. And one of the persons who was killed was a student at Whitewater, Clifford McKissick. We grew up together, actually, Clifford and I, and went to high school together. And he probably would have pledged Alpha too, once we said, because he was a very deep thinking brother, He'd stay up all night, just rapping and arguing and stuff about deep subjects. Like,
sounds familiar.
I remember we stayed up all night one night debating about being cool, what is it to be cool?
Any conversations, me and my line brothers, I can relate, yes.
And then there was a riot in Milwaukee one summer. He lived right next door to this supermarket that somebody had firebombed during the riots. And there was a curfew. And he was taking the garbage out right over by 15th and Hadley near Milwaukee. And the police saw him, in the backyard, and I don't know if they assumed he was somebody who might have been involved with firebombing, and they blew his head off. And I heard they wouldn't even let his family attend to him while he lay died on his living room floor. And the day when the police came in, and would even let anybody try to help. Those were the days, the turbulent times of the 60s. You guys aren't faced with that now, but I see that you're still dealing with racism a little on campus.
Yeah. Racism is still alive today.
It's still alive today.
Everywhere, to be honest. So, we still got our issues, we still got our battles that we're trying to face for ourselves. Wow, that's wild.
Things have changed a lot, like when I went there as a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Back in those days, you didn't have very many black guys playing quarterback in a white school because it was controversial. Now, in the NFL and college athletes playing quarterback, you would never think that was a big issue, controversy back in the 60s. So things have changed quite a bit, like in the area of sports. And, but here in Wisconsin, where we have, a great number of people come from rural backgrounds showing up on campus. And when you bring those two groups of people together, people who normally don't have contact with each other together, and then when you have stereotypes and racial prejudice, and like I said, 75% of white people in America have no interaction with black people. That's a large number. But at Whitewater, when you have that mixture there, it's a great opportunity.
In your opinion, how do we build community?
When you look at what is a community, a community is not just a group of neighborhoods together. When I think of community, I think of groups of families working together who live in the same basic area, and they have a lot of things in common. What's happening in our community, in our quote-unquote community today, is we have fragmented families. My main concern is children not getting the parenting that I think they need, because that's the basic foundation of education. What you learn from the parenting process. Now, when the parenting process breaks down, then you got, a fragmented community. And the basic fabric of our nation is our family structure. But we don't have traditional families anymore. And even though I think 75% of black children are born into non-traditional families, but I think that we can still find a way to have children have access to both parents and have fatherhood presence be available in those situations, even though they may not be living together. But it's going to take doing some heavy work. And I see that in order for our community to be a functioning community, we need to learn how to maintain and sustain relationships, and we need to learn how to collaborate. And I think it's a matter of education. Because I think if people knew a better way to resolve their conflicts and their disputes, they would do it.
So how can we kind of support each other on campus?
Well, you have a panel council, right?
Yes.
And what I'm very thankful that my freshman year, I learned to get clear on my purpose in being there. So I think clarity of purpose is number one. To be curiously engaged and about just life in general. Like, I knew I wanted to be an educator when I was on campus. So I wanted to coach. And I was also very curious about why people behave the way they do, And so my major was education and psychology. And I had a purpose to be a contribution. Back home, there was a guy named Kwame Salter. He was the founder of the Society of African American Students. He was a senior my freshman year, straight A student. He graduated magna cum laude. But he was a terrific basketball player at the city of Milwaukee at West Division. And he played, I think, his freshman year, and he just dropped basketball cold turkey and just put all his energies in academics. And I remember him saying one day at one of our meetings, he said, if you can't, with all your education, if you can't help your own mother back home, then your education really isn't relevant. And that kind of stuck with me. So I was always trying to see how could I make my education relevant. But I heard you involved in quite a number of different things on campus.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. And see, we didn't have that, when I was there, we didn't have, not very many black students were engaged in other campus activities. We kind of stuck to ourselves a lot. In retrospect, I think we should have been involved in everything that was available for us on campus. And I think when you do that, not only are we going to enhance your own skills and abilities and knowledge, but you're going to also make a difference on campus.
Kind of explain what was your proudest achievements at UW-Whitewater?
I had a chance to serve on the curriculum committee that, and this was in conjunction with the request of the demands, the black demands. We had 13 demands that we presented to the president at the time. And one was to have relevant courses and have black professors. So they allowed me to work with the curriculum committee, the campus-wide curriculum committee, and I was the, I think there may have been two black students, two students on that committee. And we redesigned a minor degree in African American Studies. You know, it took a year or more. It was at least a year that we met. I think it was probably on a weekly basis. And one of the courses that that came out of that curriculum committee and my participation was a course called Cross-Cultural Communications. Janae Austin, who was she was the advisor for the Black Student Union, invited me up to meet with the executive board of the Black Student Union. And one of the members on that executive committee was currently taking that course. And so 50 years later, you know, and that was a course that I actually recommended. So I think I made a difference, you know, because I could see that a lot of the problems that we were having, like the fights in the dorms and stuff, and they had this place called Wally's on Thursday nights. They had a bus that would take, you know, students out to drink beer. You couldn't buy beer back in those days if you were under 21 in Whitewater. So they would bus them out to Wally's, and there was always a fight, you know, because somebody would use the N-word after they got a little intoxicated,
a little tipsy,
and a little too comfortable, or whatever. And then there was always a fight, and then somebody would get expelled or suspended from school. But always a black guy would get suspended, and never the white people. And Kwame Salter was like the jailhouse lawyer. He would go up the hill and represent, you know, the black young men who were fighting. But it was always because of somebody would say something that was insensitive or use the N-word. And the same thing in the dorms where if you were coupled up with a white student, you were a black student, from time to time, you know, there would be an issue. And then there would sometimes be a fight or, you know, disharmony or whatever. And I could see that a lot of that was because understanding more about our customs, the language, you know, just the language there. You know, being tightened up might mean one thing for a white person, tightened up might mean something else for a black person, you know. So cross-cultural communication, I thought, was something that was needed.
Can you leave us kind of with a quote of the day, a quote that kind of...
Quote of the day.
Yeah, a quote that touches you.
You know, there were two that came to mind, and I was glad to get to see that question. And one of them, Goethe, is a German poet. He says, whatever you do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has magic, power, and genius in it. So whatever you do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. That's one of my favorites. And then there's another favorite, Benjamin E. Mays. He was a mentor for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he says, whatever you do, do it so well that no man living or no man dead or no man yet to be born can do it together.
I like that. I like that one. I actually do like that one. I like that. I'm looking that one up. Well, I appreciate it. We appreciate it, Brother Robinson. Thank you for coming to speak with us.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. My name is Charles Robinson, and this has been Test of a Man.